It's funny. The word narcissist is now a buzzword.
Yeah.
Everybody
And
is a narcissist.
it kills me because they watered it down.
They have. Well, a lot of words have been.
Mhm.
If you hate pistachio ice cream, you're racist.
Right, yeah.
You know, but we're getting rid of words that we'll need at some point. It's when you have an actual racist, when you have an actual narcissist, when you have an actual. So what's going to be left is my thing.
Yeah.
And if we'll be back, and I hate admitting this, and I know it's going to really make a friend mad. The reason that I'm so nonchalant about all of the background noise
Mhm.
is because I'm using AI
Yeah.
to fix this, which is funny because I'm being a hypocrite.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not, designing pieces of art or starting a fake band.
just wild to me. And through the beauty of editing, because I went straight into it because I wanted to talk to you. Through the beauty of editing, I want to let everybody know about you as a creative and what you do.
Yeah.
But I wanted to hit that really quickly because your bravery, man. There's some things that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I didn't have the testicular fortitude, to say it. And I don't think you have to burn bridges by telling the truth. I just think it's a fact.
I think if the bridges get burned by you telling them the truth, that bridge was already burned in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing that a behavior I see in a lot of people is, they'll scold you
Yeah.
for telling your story, for telling your experience, what happened to you. They'll scold you for that, but they never scold the person who did it, or the person who is scolding you isn't scolding their own. There's this lack of self accountability these days, and a lot of that I think is wrapped up and sugar coated in people's entitlement.
Yeah.
I see entitlement more now than I ever have before. I mean, it's like you see. I often think of people who cause a commotion on on airplanes, right?
Oh yeah.
And you'll see like the one person being a total asshole. But it's like, man, everybody's on the same plane, man. Everybody's crammed. Planes are not coming. If you somehow think that you get the right to invade somebody else's space, that sort of thing, that's an entitlement, right? And it's probably my least favorite characteristic.
Yeah.
That and people's lack of understanding how roundabouts work, but that's like a story.
Well, they dropped roundabouts.
Well, do not. Are you? There's a water to sip on beneath.
Chase, they got a great menu too.
Can I grab a coffee, actually? Sure, yeah. I'll like cream, please. Yes, please. Correct. Cream sugar, please. Yeah, you're right. That's not. Thank you.
Oh, I interviewed Zach too. We were talking about the art of food. Heck yeah, culinary art. Yeah.
Man, I wanted to bring some of that on to Art Moves back in the day, but trying to get stuff past the health department was a different story.
I'm pretty sure they got some regulations.
But yeah, I guess for me, it's like, what I realized is with a lot of people, I think a lot more people are becoming avoidant.
Yeah.
Of their own stuff, and you got to live with the ownership of your behavior.
Yeah.
Cause and effect, action, make consequence.
A lot of it's like cat poop. They do it and then they bury it. It's kind of like they've got this disdain for something brought up by their own actions. That's just probably human nature, but it really does seem prevalent now.
Yeah,
I don't want to engage if it makes me uncomfortable, even if I'm in the wrong.
Yep.
I don't want to engage. I don't want to hear it.
And the thing is, because like, I'll never claim to be some saint, and everybody comes with their own bag and littered history of mistakes.
Not a lot of people own it though.
Yeah, and the thing is, you're never gonna be a better person or the best version of yourself until you do.
Yeah.
I guess for me, something I've always kind of lived with is you don't have to worry about the skeletons in your closet if you keep the closet door open.
That's very true. Because people are always looking for it. It's weird, if you're beloved and you have an audience, just I've noticed that people with audiences, there's people that supported that person,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden they're itching for something to be scandalous about that person to bring them down.
They people love falling hero.
Yeah.
They love it. They love to villainize people.
After building you up, after following, after
Absolutely.
supporting, they
Yet the irony is they'll sit there and they'll keep supporting the actual villains.
oh yeah.
And
I don't know where that comes from. Like, why do we that particular cycle? I don't know why we do that.
I think so. Something that I've kind of that's been weighing on me lately is, you know, pride kind of before the fall, right?
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now on a societal level and on a world level is people who want to be right, and they want to be right more than they actually are. You know what I mean? And so, as opposed to admitting, like, you know what, I made a mistake, or I voted for the wrong guy, or you know what, these policies are actually really bad for me, they'll live with the consequence. It's the frog boiling in water thing, you know?
I've noticed that people it's funny you talk about the policies. So many of us don't even know the policy of our candidates.
Yep.
It's kind of like OU football, OU versus OSU.
Mm-hmm.
You know you have a bad team this year,
Right. Yeah.
but you're still like, I'm going for them all the way. I'm going to spend my money on the season tickets, and I understand support. But when I don't know, when beliefs and ideology become so strong that there's no room for what if,
Yeah.
yeah, that always scares me.
I was talking with a friend the other day, on just messaging back and forth on Facebook. Thank you so much.
Cool.
We'll give you a minute on the P. Yeah, I'm not hungry right now, but I'll let. Okay, takes time. Yeah, mine is that. Thank you, Zach. So I was talking to a friend the other day, and just kind of, I try my best to understand where someone's coming from. Yeah, always, because we all do have this story. But right now, the common thing that I see the most is I want mine. I don't care about yours. There's an inherent self-centeredness.
Yeah.
That I can honestly, like, people want to say, like, well, what's the problem with the world? And I'll tell you, it's greed. It's greed. Straight up unbridled greed. That's the problem.
I have suffered from before, not necessarily for money, but for other things.
Same. Yeah, same. And it was, I think a lot of it was with some people, it's a greed kind of based in fear.
Yeah.
I don't want change, but I want the most of what I can have right now. I want mine.
Yeah.
And it's a fear of the unknown, because sometimes people are about as fragile as a wet paper sack,
Yeah.
and they look at someone who looks different than them. They look at somebody who doesn't have their same beliefs, But I'm talking with this friend on social media the other day, and I mean, my dad was choir director. I used to be a praise and worship leader when I was younger. I'm atheist now. I have nothing but respect for people who have any type of belief. I think it takes something to believe something.
Yeah.
To truly believe something, even if that something is nothing, And it just it kills me, the professing of a faith and the behavior that's the antithesis of what that faith teaches. And there is this lack of self-awareness that we see, but people, the thing is, people don't police their own emotions like they should.
Well, because if you live in a world where everything is considered right, your behavior, your actions, if there's justifications for everything that you do, that there's no onus to do anything except be who you are and then justify,
Yeah.
That action.
Yeah. And it's
an emotional free for all now.
Yeah. And the thing too is social media has been a catalyst in this, and anybody who can see things both micro and macro.
Yeah.
Anybody who can see things wholly can understand the behavioral changes that have taken place over the last 20 years. It's almost like everybody's a reporter. That's what it feels like.
Feels like reporters and cults.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, what's so funny is I see people be like, on Threads, or I still have a Twitter account or an X account, but I haven't gotten on there in God knows how long. Honestly, I just kept that account because I didn't want anybody taking my name.
Yeah.
Uh,
I can't even remember if I still have a Twitter/X account. I don't remember.
yeah. Well, it's just become a cesspool at this point of negative thoughts and emotions. But it's like everybody's like, well, I have something to say.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, it's funny because I was taught to think before you speak.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that aren't doing that. They're just true. They're just the talking. And
Well, they're talking and their actions are hurtling. They do things without any consideration as to where they're going.
uh-huh.
And I told a friend that it's like, I in a lot of ways I'm a progressive minded person, but I always ask, where am I trying to make progress to? What's my destination?
Yeah.
And I don't know that people, think in those terms. I think they think in terms of movement being progressive. But if you're moving off of a cliff,
All you're doing is progressing to an end, you know?
and the same thing about, like a misuse of a conservative mindset, when there's no room for anything else, there's no room for any other expression.
So we got tables here, got tables in the center, and all the patio.
It becomes a caricature.
Yeah, I don't care. That's exactly right. And it's funny because like
Mike,
I don't believe in extremism. It be left, right. I don't believe because what happens is you become mostly claim. It is it's circular. As you live
You said something about, as far as people of faith, I think it's okay to have religion or not have religion. But when your ideology becomes religion, I think that there's a problem because she's on side.
so it's very.
It becomes a problem, right? Because now you can't be open to the truth.
So let me show you
Things that negates any conversation that we might have.
Yeah. What I was telling my friend when we were chatting back and forth, because I posted this thing on Facebook that was about religion. Yeah, it was about Christianity. I grew up in the faith. I read the Bible a lot. A lot of people assume, like, given my beliefs now, that I've never read the book.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think about the teachings of Jesus Christ every single day. I think about how to treat other people every single day.
That's practical application.
That's right. I mean, whether I believe in that God or not has nothing to do with the lessons and tales in morality and ethics.
Yeah.
And civility. And so she was kind of surprised to find out that I was there. Praise and worshipers,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. But she'd thanked me for making this post, and she was telling me about how she struggles with her religion. And I go, everything is weaponized, nowadays. I mean,
I can't think of anything that's not when it comes to social media.
oh my God, yeah. And I think the problem is people are they want to see how many people they can get on their side, right? But I'm pretty sure there were studies done. In fact, I remember reading an article years ago. So, I don't watch anything, so I'm not going to say any numbers. But basically, the concept behind the study was like humans are not meant to know 5,000 people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These big friend lists.
Well, we were at our best during one-on-one interactions. You remember when we would actually watch a whole movie if we go to Blockbusters?
Bingo.
When you were dating, there was no swipe left, swipe right.
Yeah.
And you had to make the most and see the best of a person before you made a judgment. Now it's, I don't like his haircut, or I don't like the fact that she doesn't shade her eyebrows, or
Yeah.
and we just swipe, and that's what it is.
Yeah. It's turned people into trading cards. It's just and it's diluted romance. Because also that same thing, like human entitlement, that greed comes into play.
Yeah.
So I want a woman that looks like this, acts like this. It's like, cool. So have you ever seen the movie Weird Science? Because that's
Oh, weird science.
it's like, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
It's like you want to cook up an imaginary human being at lab.
Well, nobody wants to tolerate the flaws of a human being.
And that's what makes us human.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
We used to connect over that, the fact that, okay, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
that used to be the fundamental reason that we overlooked our imperfections and we're like, hey, we both happen. What can we connect on that's in the middle?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, our our measure of love shouldn't be how many good qualities somebody has. Our measure of love is all of the maybe not so good qualities. And we're like, yeah, but you're still such a good person.
Yeah.
That's part of that package, right?
Yeah.
And I love your imperfections. If you can't love somebody's imperfections as much as the perfections, then you don't really love,
True.
because that's part of it.
I draw the line at, if they're a, habitual serial killer, then I got to,
Right.
I draw,
Yeah.
draw the line in there.
I can. If I don't know if I could ever date like a moral subjectivist, but but I could certainly be like, well, that's one way of looking at it. But it's funny because I mean, it's become this cycle of self-importance and self-righteousness and self-aggrandizing behavior that I don't know. It just we're losing the detail. We're losing our focus.
Well, and I told a friend one time, I said, if we stopped and actually we turn all the social media off, we don't hear anything except what's in our head and in our hearts, most people would have different beliefs because they would feel under pressure to believe anything other than what their inner was telling them.
Yeah.
Um, every guy would not be dating a perfect 10. Some women might find a guy that's 5'7" interesting,
Yeah.
but the pure pressure is so incredible that we're not allowed to be our authentic selves. And when we are authentic, we're being difficult.
Yep.
Yeah. We're being combative. We're being, I was called God, I've been called just about everything at least once in my life. To you. I was called a self-hating black guy. I was called a misogynist before. And when I look back on the conversations, um, I was offering solutions. And when you disagree sometimes, again, when ideology becomes a belief, then you don't even have room for the opinions, of a person. It's as simple as I disagree with you about the weather.
Yeah.
You're a misogynist. Why? Because you happen to be a woman. I'm just saying the sun is out. You're saying the sun isn't out. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. Being observational does not define our stance on societal genres.
And you're right. Our fear of being wrong, like being right, there's being right. You want to be right, but there's also the fear of being wrong.
Yeah.
And we see this at all levels.
Oh my God.
In academia, I read as in academia.
We see it starting in childhood.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it starts early, so you're conditioned to it. Deprogramming.
Mm-hmm.
I would wish it wasn't true. If you spent 14 years being programmed a certain way, I would hope that it wouldn't take 14 years, but
it might.
yeah, it does.
That it's taken me a while to really unlearn a lot of self-hate.
Yeah.
Because I think part of it too, I've been in, I have an amazing partner now. She's incredible. But prior to she and I,
You kind of went through it.
yeah, I had a physically abusive relationship.
Yeah.
I'd never experienced that before.
Which nobody would believe you, being the male.
That's exactly right. Because when the bad stuff happens to a guy, we kind of don't care.
Matter of fact, some of us even laugh at it.
Yeah.
We're like, so you let a 120-pound woman beat on you. Yeah. What's your problem? But if you defend yourself, you
Bingo. It's a no-win scenario.
It is.
It's a no-win scenario. And, and this person would, if they were driving, they would start screaming and like striding really erratically. Okay.
Wow.
I remember wanting to, get out of the car. This person was drunk once, and I remember they almost hit 2 cars and they ran 2 stop signs. And this was in just like 2-mile way to home. And I was like, "Why don't you let me drive?" And it was, "Nah." I said, "Okay, well, if you're not going to drive, then let me out of the car because I don't feel safe."
Yeah.
And I had her pull into a parking lot, and I tried to get out. She had locked the door, and I was like, "Unlock the doors now." And so she unlocked the door, and I stepped out. I had 1 foot, and as soon as I stood up, she hit the gas.
Wow.
And I was holding on to the side of this car door with my feet dragging in a parking lot. That was earlier this year. And I think on the standard of this, it has to be equality across the board, or it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Male, female, white, black, Mexican, I don't care. It has to be equality for all, or we're failing the ideal itself, right? And then I think of like just reverse roles,
Yeah.
double standards. If a male did this to a female, what would the consequence of that be? But so it's not okay when a female does it to a male either. Then I was raised never to lay a hand on a woman, and I never will.
Me too. I would never do that. But you do notice like double standards. I mean, whether they're cultural double standards, racial double standards, gender double standards.
You see that?
Yeah. And again, it doesn't change the fact that I'm never going to strike a woman for anything.
Yeah.
But if I'm getting struck, I am going to point out, you're striking me in the face.
Yeah, like, and this person showed up in my house drunk at 11:30 once, and I was like, "Hey, come in," rambling about whatever, hit me in the face and then walked out.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, prior to that relationship, I was with somebody who did a smear campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, went around telling people I was an abusive alcoholic, that I was a physically abusive and verbally abusive person. And those people had no idea. I'm still finding out about men she cheated on me with. So I haven't had a relationship with this person in 2 years.
So when she was doing the smear campaign, and I'm assuming it was probably online. We like to air our dirty laundry.
Oh, this was in circles that affected my career.
So when she did that, and I'm just curious, I think I know the answer. Did you notice this shift before you had a chance to even say anything, to where people were,
There are groups of, and I've talked to my girlfriend about this, because if we go out, and I know people all around town, but that's also because I put myself out there for a long time, both as a musician, photographer, and as an arts administrator. And I consider myself really fortunate to be able to have these friendships and relationships with people, and be able to kind of walk into any bar or any venue and know someone there. I like that because there's a sense of safety in that.
oh yeah,
But I mean, I was telling my girlfriend, we were out once, and there's this whole table of girls of women looking at me funny, and like I was a leper, the pariah of society, and it's because they're all friends with my ex.
yeah,
And there's a term for that when it comes to narcissism. And it's called flying monkeys.
yeah. The ones that are around.
They have that. And so what happens is the narcissist just tells one or two of them whatever smear it is, whatever lie it is, and then sits back while they disseminate false information about you.
Yeah.
And ruin things. I mean, I was booted off a committee that I had served on for 4 years, designed the event the year prior, and I got booted off because one of her best friends became the co-chair of that.
Is that not crazy?
That's insane to me.
And you can't even defend yourself.
I can't defend myself at all. And the irony too.
Well, because they want you to be wrong, because the allegiance is with the friend.
That's exactly right. And what that tells me is that they have a fragile friendship. That cannot handle or withstand the truth.
And it's probably,
And I have all the text message. What's funny is I'm a Capricorn.
Yeah.
I keep the receipts. You know what I mean? And
that's a Capricorn move.
yeah, and especially when you've been as done wrong as many times as I have, and I've had to just take it on the chin and keep going. But like, what people don't see are everything from medicated depression,
Yeah.
medicated anxiety, suicidal ideations. Like, people don't see the dark side of it. No one was there in my bedroom when I held a handful of pills and I thought about life for over an hour and wanted to kill myself. They weren't there. they don't know how they make you feel because they don't care about how they make you feel. What they care about is stroking their own ego.
And
it's such a high school behavior to me. It's like mean girls.
and being right.
And being right.
Yeah, being right has become the cornerstone of culture.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I've been married twice. I've been in the wrong many times. I've had girlfriends. I remember the day that I guess I arrived, you know, through that. Yeah, because I'll be honest, I was a complete monster at one time. You know, whether it's retaliation or not.
Yeah.
A grown man should just walk away.
Yep.
And in this situation, it took me years to walk away from. But something happened, and she passed away. This particular person passed away, and I went to the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I was asked to leave the funeral.
Yeah.
Because of the history that was left with it.
Yeah.
And my cell phone was where we were at. We knew that we were no longer together. There had been some pain, but there was healing. And the last thing that we were talking about, there's a movie that Skip and you know Skip Hill.
Yep.
Skip, I drafted him to be in this marriage film. And the last entry was, we were telling each other, I want you to be happy. She said, I am happy. I do want that for you too.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, shine on, you know, your career, everything.
Yeah.
That was one of the last entries, but what they were left with, and because she passed, there wasn't a chance to fix and repair.
Yeah.
You know what I did? The phone was what ended up being smashed. You know, I dropped it.
Yeah.
And I could have retrieved all my information. And part of me really wanted to show that side of the family, hey, we were on the road to healing, but it never happened. So what I did is I never showed those messages.
Yeah.
It was a kind of closure, because sometimes blood is thicker than truth. And it's also pain, you know, you've lost, you know, this family member, you've lost a mother, you've lost a grandmother or whatever. And sometimes the best thing to do is just to shut the door.
Yeah.
On certain things.
To be the only option left.
Yeah. A lot of things left unsaid. I know, she knew, but we took for granted that we'd both always be around.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, annoying each other with one another's new partner.
Yeah.
That's what you think. But things can be very final. But sometimes words they're not going to heal anything. And you can't prove. They keep proving and proving and proving with people that are hurt, or people that are not really interested in the truth. They're interested in a version of it.
That's what it is. They need the digestible, easily chewed up and swallowed story.
Yeah.
They need something that doesn't interfere with their thought process.
Yeah.
But the irony of that is the person on the other side of it,
Yeah.
their thought process is the one that's, being interfered with on a constant basis.
Yeah.
And part of walking away and letting something go is growth.
Well, that goes to deal with us wanting to be, I think, right. When we won't walk away, I got to tell my truth. Well, why do you have to tell your truth if you know it to be the truth?
Yeah.
And your audience, that you're wanting to hear you isn't going to hear you anyway.
Because it can be even like our own ego of like, is it really that important that I be right?
Yeah.
I know what I did. I know what happened in these situations. I know the truth. I know what's right and I know what's wrong. Is it important that I publicly display that?
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's kind of with some of the stuff that I've posted lately, a lot of that is because there needs to be systemic and foundational change, specifically in the art nonprofit world here.
Yeah. And that was the conversation I was talking about. When you broke that wide open, I was like, wow.
Yeah. It's not been easy because God knows what kind of stuff's been said about me behind my back. That isn't even close to the truth. But the thing is, people, like we said, people love to see fallen hero. They love it. They love it because it reminds them that like, oh, maybe somebody's worse than me. And it's like, that's not how it works.
But we're not interested. But in that whole thing, the justification generation, I don't have to be a better version of myself because there's always somebody worse than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I might be a criminal, but I only did 3 years as opposed to 10 years in jail.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm in for petty theft, not child molestation. You know what I mean? It's like,
There's no reflection that you were not supposed to go to jail to begin with.
yeah, it's, we see it a lot and we see it a lot in political discourse nowadays, right?
Which everybody's afraid to talk with me about.
Yeah.
My friends run like roaches, and I've got conservative friends, liberal friends, just friends that are indifferent and uninformed.
Mhm.
They all
They skedaddle.
they skedaddle.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of subscribe to echo chambers where I really don't say anything,
Mm-hmm.
because if I do, it's clutching pearls.
Yeah.
I can't believe that you think this. And my thing is, well, I understand that you think what you do. Why aren't you interested in what I'm thinking, since we have to occupy the same country?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the weirdest time I've ever seen, especially since we have so many advantages.
This is I mean, we're seeing the alchemy of multiple avenues of chaos coming in at once, and all just like converging and the outcome is, I see a lot of people like scary times. And you know what? Like, yeah, but you want to know what I think is worse? It's heartbreaking times. You see it in heartbreaking times. It's sad times when we see people behaving the way that they do. Yeah. Without an iota of self-awareness, but it's like kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, you know, did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite quotes it was towards the very end of it. And Peter Dinklage character is talking to Kit Harington's character. And I think it might've been one of the very last episodes. It was last season.
Yeah.
And, Jon Snow, the bastard son, bastard king kind of thing. And Peter Dinklage being that brother, the on the outskirts of that family.
Yeah.
Is like something to the effect of like, never forget who you are.
Yeah.
Wear it like a badge of honor. But he's like, never forget who you are because they won't.
Mhm.
And he's like, but if you wear it, like if you own it, it becomes the armor and you become impenetrable. And I was like, holy shit, that's great.
That was a revelation.
That is it.
Favorite character, Game of Thrones.
Man. Oof.
You can have your top 3.
I really liked Peter Dinklage character.
Yeah. Everybody loved, what was his name? Tyrion? On the show, he was Tyrion.
Yeah, Lannister.
Tyrion Lannister.
I mean, sometimes I'm typical. It's like, I like the hero. So like Jon Snow was always, but feeling like an outcast and trying to find his way and all of that sort of stuff in this madness and being treated like a second-class citizen because he was the bastard of this guy, but he was in fact the bloodline of it. Right?
Yeah.
And so, I love a misunderstood hero. Maybe in some like egotistical way, or that's relatable content for me.
But we all love the hero's journey. I think I don't know what it is. I think it's ingrained in us. Just as men, we want to do what's right. Like we want to be triumphant in some type of way.
And then I can't remember his name. The bald guy that was kind of,
what, the advisor guy?
yeah, that was
Varys.
yeah, always like kind of sowing these seeds, but he always knew what was going on.
Oh, yeah,
he had a pulse on everything.
That's Varys.
And then the older woman who had what's his name killed.
Joffrey.
Yeah.
Oh, she was cold-blooded.
She was cold-blooded, but she had this demeanor of just like this quiet old lady, and also like,
even dying, she's like,
nope.
oh yeah, she got the last word.
Yeah, and to me, I was like, man, there's just something about conviction.
Yeah,
and I was like, oof, that is stone cold.
Yeah,
mission in life.
Tell you what, my favorite characters, Bronn of the Blackwater.
Yeah.
Was one of my favorite characters. And if we look at it for personal reasons, I think most characters that we we gravitate to. They're either things that are in us or that we admire, that we wish. Braun kind of represents what I became after my second favorite character, Ned Stark.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, I walked this very straight line.
Yeah. And Ned Stark was just a good man.
He was good in a very, very evil world. And his story concluded with there being no justice. There was no karma, there was no justice.
It was a hard spark.
He was just a guy that got beheaded for being the best human being in the show.
Yeah.
Well, Bronn, you go through a transformation. You talk about heartbreak, which it's amazing that you're optimistic. You're a person that left enough in the tank to love again.
Yeah.
And you've got a wonderful relationship and things are normal. You live in this crazy, narcissistic, abusive world. I look at who you become, and I think there's a lot of ways to heal. My longest lasting situation made me into an Iron Man.
Yeah.
To where I stopped asking, why isn't the world like this, and started operating within what the world was.
Yeah.
And I'm okay now. I got into a much better situation. I'm very quiet about it. When I'm happy, I don't talk about any of my business. Nobody knows anything. I don't put pictures up.
Yeah.
But I noticed the person that I'd become was a lot like Bronn, and I remember his quote. He kills the guy that, he's defending Tyrion. He ends up being the champion. And he kills the royal champion that they select. And he kind of, I'm not saying he cheats, but he's very unconventional.
Yeah.
And you know the line I'm talking about.
I think so.
He says he stabs him, and then he drops him into this hole. He just kind of falls into the abyss. And the woman that was one of the I think one of the Starks, and she says, "You don't fight with honor." And he said, "No, but he did."
Yeah. Yes. God, I forgot about that.
Well, I'm not saying that's who I am, but I've had to adapt to this new reality of transactional life.
Yeah.
People are friends with you. The friends that I have now, they're just friends. We're going to be lifelong friends until we die. But the acquired friends, the ones in the dating pool, the jobs, everything is so transactional now. And I don't believe Gen Z is going to kick me in the butt for saying this. I believe they know how to act emotion, but they don't know how to experience emotion.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like that too.
Yeah. How do you exist in that? Like you personally, how do you navigate that and remain, a productive human being?
One of the hardest things to do. I think about the last episode when NBC screwed over Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
Okay. And just upended this man's career in life. And on his last episode hosting The Tonight Show, it was the one where I think Will Ferrell came out and it's like Freebird was.
Yeah.
But he had this, he goes, I have a message for the younger viewers that's never given to cynicism. Cynicism gets for nothing in life. And I do believe that, and cynicism by definition is distrust.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you dated one person and they cheated on you, yeah, cynicism would control you by saying, well, if they cheated, everybody's not cheating up.
Yeah.
So don't trust anybody. Right. But then by not opening yourself up, you're closing yourself off to the beauty around you.
That's true. And it's extreme.
Yeah. And the hardest thing is when you get burned multiple times.
Yeah.
To just figure out, okay, what is it? What is it that, like, what am I even doing? Part of what I've wrestled with the most is it's a real thin line between existentialism and nihilism.
Yeah.
In fact, I think sometimes they're holding hands. It's what is important, if anything.
Yeah. And to be motivated when you think that.
It is. Yeah. It's really hard. And that's something that I've just kind of wrestled with the last few years, which is why, like, I focus more on just writing for myself. I got back into poetry again.
Yeah.
Because I started with poetry when I was young, before I was writing music.
Didn't know that.
In fact, I wrote poetry in secret.
Yeah.
And I remember in my English class once, when I was like a junior in high school, uh, my English teacher was like, she had a door that went to the outside, and I was 16, 17 years old. Um, I was a class officer when I was a sophomore, but I lost my race going into junior year. So junior year was my slump year in high school. I mean, it just kind of was like, whatever, very apathetic. But I was still writing a lot. So she opened this door to the outside, and it's raining outside. And there was like a little bit of an awning. And she was like, okay, I want everybody to just take 15, 20 minutes and go outside, be inspired by what you see, write a poem, any kind of poem, anything from haiku, A B, standard, whatever, just write a poem, you know? And she's like, and I'm going to read them anonymously.
Yeah.
In the second half of class. And if you want to take credit, you can. And so, most of these were like, you could tell these were not necessarily people that are, you want to write good poetry. You got to look beyond what you're looking at in the first place. You don't say the sky's blue.
Yeah.
You relate the sky to something else. So I'm outside, I'm writing this poem, and I don't remember what all it said. I remember making an example. I was just watching the rain slowly fall off a leaf.
Yeah.
And kind of the shape that the water had. And so I wrote this kind of line of something like, as the water falls like it's being ripped from the water loves.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, the tree trunk. Blah, blah. I mean, it was very like,
I've been to poetry readings before to where
basic descriptions of stuff, right? And so she reads mine kind of towards the end.
Mhm.
And I wasn't gonna own it.
Yeah.
But it got these applause, and there were a couple kids that were like, "Whoa, who wrote that?" And nobody thought it was going to be the twerpy guy that sits in the lunch. And instead of being like, would the author of this like to, and she goes, Chase, would you like credit?
I'll just call you out right there.
Spilled it on me by accident. And after that, that's when I started being known as like, people started listening to lyrics more.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, there's something to say in this,
Have you ever noticed, like, when we get devoid of art, whether we're talking music or we're talking visual art, there's a certain paleness to the way that we are.
Yeah.
And even people that don't know anything about art, if I took, and I'm going to talk with you about some of your music as well.
Yeah.
Because I just, I saw a piece before I got here. My studio's right over there too. Like I live on the grounds. Legacy. You were talking about I believe was it your grandfather or your father?
I've kind of posted about both.
I saw that, and I wanted to ask you about, well, first thing is the value of art and the absence of art.
Mm-hmm.
I did a couple of podcasts where I was talking about a society that didn't really value art. And, even like art collectors, the young art collectors, they're not collecting in the same way. There's not the same sense of a preciousness to it.
Yeah.
But what's funny is there was also this weird survey. There was a survey and study that showed young people, they were starved for nostalgia that they had never experienced.
Yep.
And all of it is rooted in things that was, whether we're talking video games, why are you playing 8-bit Mario and you've got 100 gazillion bit video games now? Why are you going back to old records? One of my younger, I think she may be 19 or 20. We joke. She jokes about me being old on my job.
Yeah.
And I joke about her being here for you've been here for maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But I taught music and she storms off because I said something funny to her.
Yeah.
And we were done for the day. So she goes outside. I thought she had left. She comes back with a CD wallet, trying to prove, because I was like, you probably don't know what a CD is, kid.
Yeah.
Okay, let alone vinyl. So she comes back and says, opens the book up, and there is Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I said, why the heck do you have that? Well, of course you have parents, but she also has a choice because she has the music of today
Mm-hmm.
and she has the music of then. She said, I don't know, but I know that it made sense. So when I hear you talking about songwriting and you talking about um, just how those words instigated certain emotions, but the other ones is the tree and the tree has leaves.
Yeah.
Even though we live in that basic of a universe today, there's still a hunger for something creative.
I think, well, to me, it's artists of all types.
Yeah.
Artists are defining what we ourselves are falling short to define.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The poet oftentimes tells you how you feel.
Yeah.
Because we might have the lack of words for it.
There's an honesty.
Yeah.
And there's a safety because you're not saying it. You're not put out there to say it. You're listening to somebody say it and it just connects to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and I remember because I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was 3. I had 4 step parents after that. Um, I went through a lot with especially my second stepdad and my second stepmom. They were not necessarily the best to me. And you know, I think of like how I escaped into my songs.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, it's kind of like I was schooling myself on things.
Yeah.
Um, it's I needed to get more into music.
Yeah.
You know, I needed that. I needed to hear people explain. I mean, so when I was 16, I got the album Grace by Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
And that was a turning point for me. Um, Hearing this poetry and melodies and hearing a guy sing that high, and I was like, oh, men are allowed to sing high too. That's right, you know. But then I also got into like Nick Drake at the same time, and Nick Drake wasn't known for necessarily having these like crazy lyrics that are gonna like stick with you. They're more abstract. But what Nick Drake could do is paint an entire atmosphere with one single guitar.
Yeah.
And there was a melancholy in it that really attracted me, and I found safety in that too, you know. And so in my, you know, my years of forming, really, it started with just hours and hours by myself driving around listening to music.
Yeah.
And um waxing nostalgia, you know, and kind of getting back to that, you know. There's a safety in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right. But I've always said that art in all of its forms is like the marrow and the bone, right? So it's like you look at the function of blood marrow, right? It produces blood platelets.
Yeah.
It helps us fight off things like cancer. Okay. And that's why I think art is the marrow and the bone. It helps us fight off
Some hamsters that are surrounding us.
thing. And to me, art is the last line of defense when you're having the argument of quantity versus quality when it comes to living. You know what I mean?
I completely 100% agree.
And that's why, like, money can't buy you taste. It can't buy you class. It cannot buy you morals or ethics. And it sure as shit can't buy you friendships and love.
No.
Money cannot do these things. It can.
But money speaks so loud now that we forget.
That's the thing is we put a dollar sign on the value of a human life. You see it. We see it every single day. We see it by mass people grabbing others.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing them into a cage. Privatizing the prison system.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? We put a dollar value on a human life. Eons ago.
We do, but that craving for what you're talking about, the artistry, which is why I feel like there's this cultural civil war going on between um, people that are inundated with content versus people whose lives are I don't want to say art based, but they're sensitive to creativity.
Yeah.
And that what I've noticed with the content creators, they use vehicles of art to make things that are not necessarily art. And the definition of what's even being called good is, like a great movie. If you watch The Godfather, it's a completely different movie than if you watch a modern gangster movie. Everything moves at a brisk pace. The characters are surface. I'm gonna get a lot of crap for this. And I'll bring it back to music because I came from music. My original art form was hip hop.
Yeah.
And but I went and saw Sinners, and I like Ryan Coogler. I love what he's doing. But I got so hyped about this thing being so different and so new.
Yeah.
20 minutes in, I was like, so this is like a 1940s Near Dark.
Yeah.
It had already been done. And I saw the vampires. I said, this is going to end with the vampires overrunning and there visually it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think about great horror movies and things that have stood the test of time. It'll be interesting to see where Sinners is.
I totally agree.
Yeah. I look at other music, mainstream, bringing it back to music, I look at mainstream music and see what? Everybody has a formulaic song. You've been around long enough to know you had your singles.
Yeah.
And your singles were the most formulaic thing on there.
I'm gonna make an album and I need 3 boss.
That's it. And that's what that was the standard.
It was. Yeah.
But now everything is a single. It's almost like,
I equate it to ring culture in the NBA.
really?
And the reason I do that is you see a lot of these young kids online that'll be like, yeah, but he doesn't have a ring.
Oh,
Right?
got
You see where I'm going with it?
got you.
So it's like you're trying to tell me that Charles Barkley isn't an NBA
One of the
legend,
best, yeah.
one of the best to ever do it. You're trying to tell me that people like the mailman, the postman,
Freaking Allen Iverson. They don't have rings.
they don't have rings. Does John Stockton have a ring?
I can't remember if Stockton got a ring or not.
Malone doesn't have one. No.
One of the best.
One of the best to ever do. And it's that same thing. And I think what's happening is what we're seeing. And the scary thing is I'm starting to see this a little bit in visual art too,
Yeah.
where with singles culture and music,
Yeah.
one, it's I have to do this because I'm bending the knee to the algorithm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. The algorithm is now my king. I got to bend the knee to this. That isn't artistry. Artistry is giving that algorithm the finger and doing what you want.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And creating your own universe, whether it's 500 people, 5,000 people.
Bingo. But I'd rather play to a room of 5 people that will listen than 5,000 people that will talk.
So I know which side of the equation you're on. I mean, like you're on the side of art. But do you think, have you ever had a moment to where, the gods of the algorithm started calling you and you started wondering?
You know what's funny is I've had friends that are like really good dear friends and friends who are amazing songwriters and artists in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Saying like, hey, if you do this, then after so long, then you'll break into the algorithm. The problem is this. I'm also seeing Spotify artists that have millions of plays on Spotify. And they come through on tour and I go to their show and there's 20 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
Plays on Spotify do not equate to success in real life. And that's the problem. We're bending the knee to a fiction.
And we don't, in things that we actually would attend as human beings.
Yeah.
We're not deep support. Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you have to do to support? If you're an activist, I support this, you click a button.
Well,
Everything has been made so simple.
Yeah, it's too easy. It's too easy. So for me, with singles culture, the way that is in music is I put out this song. This is where it becomes toxic to the musician. So I put out this song. Well, the next one's got to be better.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. The next one needs to be you. It just needs to be you. And that's, I love an album. And the reason I love an album is because that is an artist's way of saying, this is where I'm at right
Yeah.
now. Is
So
this,
you make out,
yeah,
yeah,
like that's what I enjoy doing.
yeah. There's a complete thought. There's a thread to it, and every song is not.
Time capsule.
It is, and every song is meant to do something individual. It's not meant to, you know. Again, I'm going to make some people mad, particularly a friend on the job. It's not Beyonce. Beyonce can sing. She can sing. But if you stuck nearly anybody in there over that track, whatever track she's on, yeah, it doesn't put me in a particular place. It doesn't put me in a particular time. I listen to Drake. It doesn't put me in a particular place, yeah, or a particular time. I remember everything that I was doing, where I was at when I first heard. There's a group called Gangstar. They're not gangs, I guess, but they had a song called Mass Appeal, and it had nothing to do with the words. The music sounded like a particular part of New York.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hear rock songs that put me in and I hear some independent artists that do the same thing as well. You think authenticity is going to make a comeback, and if it becomes mainstream, can it remain authentic?
Yeah. It's sometimes I'll hear an album that I haven't listened to in a while, and it's almost like I can smell where I was.
Yeah.
You know, and that's also one of the things that I just admire about the human brain.
Yeah.
We have this kind of strange ability to like travel through time in our memories.
Yeah.
And with our senses, everything, and that's really cool and interesting to me. I've always been a fan of. I'm like, give me that obscure track number 7.
Yeah.
Like
And I'm the same.
I've heard the singles. It's like back in the day, the formula was always you release the second best song first.
Yeah.
You release the best song second, and then your slow jam comes third,
Yeah.
and then the album drops. That was that was real. Yeah, that was a pattern I would see all the time.
Yeah.
And now I see people having release shows for one song. And I'm like, are you just going to do the one?
Yeah.
Like we would have album release shows back in the day. We didn't have single release shows because the thing is, it's like, I think the glorification of one song is cheap.
It is.
I think it's
So
just,
that you want to replicate the glory of that
Yeah.
one song over and over and over with a slightly different variation.
because I want to hear what else the artist could. It's like a visual artist. Like just because you make one painting doesn't mean I'm expecting the next one to be better. I expect the next one to just be used.
Yeah.
Like it's like you can look at Rothko's career, right? When he started, it was like he was closer to Picasso stylistically.
I remember seeing what he was painting. I mean, Picasso wasn't Picasso. Picasso was a realist.
Yeah.
And that changed.
And that changed. And so it's like I want to be I cherish the early Rothko as much as I do the later Rothko.
Because it's a part of the evolution, like the process journey of how they became what they. Music is the same way. Well, when an artist continues to be an artist,
Yeah.
when they become a commodity, then it's kind of like, yeah. And every album that I've heard, when artists deviate from what got them on the map in the first place, they generally fail.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you've got to go more commercial. There's so many groups, whether we're talking whatever genre of music, if they expand what they were doing, occasionally it works, but for the most part, it turns into fan base feeling like, what did you just do? Why did you leave us?
Yeah.
And then the people that you're trying to get, they're like, well, we've got 10 of those over here. Why do we need you?
Exactly.
So what is the point to the sellout?
I always have said that influences are always important, right? I mean, shit, we beg, borrow, and steal from him all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in music. Springsteen had a good quote about that. I forget what it is, but it's hilarious. And I always saw it as the analogy, metaphor, whatever that I've always used since I was like in my early 20s is when you were a kid, did you ever go to the gas station and get a Coke Suicide? Where it's like every flavor, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I see it as like it's the Coke Suicide.
Yeah.
It's Mountain Dew is the Beatles, Dr. Pepper is Zeppelin, Pepsi is Marvin Gaye, blah, blah, right? So these are all of these influences.
Yes.
Okay. If it's too heavy-handed on one, you're going to pick that influence out of both the rest. But if you are able to take your influences, and when you become yourself, you blend those in such a way that the flavors become something new.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, I don't think original art exists anymore," I say, "I think you're wrong." I think it's all about balancing the influences that we have, right? And the other thing about it too is once those influences are blended equally,
Yeah.
and respectfully, you cannot separate them. You can't once they go in the cup, you can't pull them out and do out anymore.
No.
It's become a part. It's just as much part of the process as the Dr. Pepper.
This is true.
And so the whole Coke suicide thing ended up being like a really important metaphor for me to remember for myself getting older, And what's funny, and I've always been a huge fan of his, and it wasn't until a couple years ago when I realized how heavy of an influence he actually has on my music, but it's Bill Withers.
Bill Withers.
Yeah, huge Bill Withers, right? And so I'm
Right on the Alexa playlist. Like I've got this categorized. Yeah. He's on 2 of my playlists.
well, and I kind of see it as like, he was in a lot of ways. I mean, he was a black singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
That's really what it was. It's just a man and his acoustic guitar, and when he came into that world, that was a white man's world at the time.
Yeah.
That arena of music was almost all white people. But Bill Withers came in and did it his way. I mean, he was in the Navy, he kept his job after signing. He had his first album has 2 of my favorite songs. I mean, Ain't No Sunshine and Grandma's Hand.
Oh yeah.
Grandma's Hands is like really important song. And it was one of those deals where, I mean, shit, that was his vocal sample is No Diggity,
Oh yeah.
but like that was his debut album, had those 2 songs. It's like, leave some room for the rest of this, my guy.
Yeah.
Because like you're coming out swinging. So here's this guy who has hits on the radio, and he kept his day job because he knew how fickle the industry was.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought that was cool. So he'd be going to work. He'd be like, "Bill, that's you on the radio." And I'd be like,
Yeah. I got to clock in. Yeah. I got to get my paycheck to pay my rent.
yeah. I mean, we talk about artistic evolution. It's like Marvin Gaye, another top 10 artist from Earth, right? And you look at his evolution.
Yeah.
From like the early Motown stuff, right? To What's Going On, which is an all-time favorite album on you. And then Marvin Gaye, I mean, he dealt with a lot of, having that Southern Baptist father, the man who killed it.
Yeah.
He to me had a lot of that religious guilt that he lived with, he separated himself. He went over to like England for a long while.
Oh yeah.
He took a break in the UK. When he came back, this from like sexual healing and those sort of stuff. And he had all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, now that's an evolution. At least from What's Going On to sexual healing. That's an evolution.
That's an evolution.
Evolution. That's growth.
But the thread is still.
And he kept his conviction in it.
Oh yeah.
I like art like that.
I don't criticize change. I criticize fabrication. When you fabricate an image or whatever. But if you change into simple, I'm pretty much on board for whatever direction you go. You go in, because I want to go on that journey. That's the difference between a casual fan and a patron of your music, of your art. They want to go the full road. Some things they may have loved more than others.
I love this album, but I want to see what you're doing on the next one too.
Oh yeah. I've got everything that's 9 Inch Nails, but some were better than others. Massive Attack.
Love Massive Attack. Yeah. It's kind of like Radiohead, right?
Oh my God. Radiohead, from where they began. We actually sampled Radiohead.
Really?
Yeah. We made a song about unemployment.
So if we're currently on that, but it's like you listen to Pablo Honey and you go listen to In Rainbows.
Yeah.
And In Rainbows to me is a perfect album.
Yeah.
That's a top to tails. Is it my favorite Radiohead record? No. But do I think it's a perfect album? Yeah, I do. I think sonically,
Hey, how are you doing?
all of these things. But it's like my favorite's Kid A.
Yeah.
And people will be like, why? Why isn't it The Bins or Pablo Honey or OK Computer or In Rainbows? And in my head, I'm like, because Kid A was the one that was way ahead of its time.
Yeah. That kind of set a new standard. And they, if you listen to them completely, it became more and more abstract.
Mhm.
They did Tom York did the soundtrack for this movie called Suspiria. It was the remake of an old movie.
Of the old one, yeah.
And it was
I've seen the old one. I haven't seen the new one.
the new one. It doesn't try to imitate the old one.
Okay.
In fact, the old one was known for its Technicolor saturated colors.
Was that the one with oh, what's her name?
I can't remember the lead's name, brunette.
There was. I might be thinking of a different one.
Well, Suspiria, you'd remember because it was poorly dubbed.
Yeah.
In Italy, everything was dubbed, even if it was, and they had the same voice actors and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But Suspiria was considered it was considered an art house classic. The very first one, 1970, can't remember if it was 70 something. Before, it was right before I was born, or maybe a little bit after. But it was considered a classic because it captured the whole idea. Dario Argento was to capture a nightmare on film, and none of it made sense as far as the narrative. Absolutely none of it made sense, and it didn't matter. The other one, which had Tilda Swinton in it, that's the one that's the one that Tom Moore scored.
I'll put that on my watch list.
And check out the you can if you got Alexa or anything like that, you can also hear the entire soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's amazing how music changes the entire mood of a film.
Oh my God. Something that's always happened to me since I was a kid is when I write songs, I have scenes in my head.
Yeah.
And when I listen to music, I have scenes in my head. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that happens to.
Oh, yeah. We when we did the film, I think the hardest part was doing the score.
Mm-hmm.
Marlon Ladd directed the film. We're incredibly good friends, but we have different tastes.
Mm-hmm.
So we had all these versions of the film, the Merrick film, as far as musically. So the theatrical release, it feeds more into the mainstream sensibilities, stuff like that. But there's an abstract version, that I plan to put out, and we're also going to do a thing to where we invite people to take a silent version of the film. It's just the audio, and if you're a musician, we're giving permission for them to go ahead. And that's one of the things that we want to do. But you forget how important music is to these projects.
Yeah.
Which there is something I want to ask you. So I'm starting a segment on that deals with nothing but music. It's called Sunday Night Sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the Life is Art podcast, which we are absolutely not interested in just content making for the sake of content.
Yeah.
Very small audience. It's in the hundreds.
Yeah.
But we're building it for people that do understand the things that we're talking about right now as far as the importance of it.
Yeah.
I would love to have you on there and talk about your songs.
Yeah.
Why you do what you do. And I would love to invite you to the gallery to do an acoustical set.
I love that.
To where you don't just perform, you're not just background music, but I want people to be able to interact with you. I want to treat it the same way we would treat an artist, where you have a symposium.
Yeah.
A Q&A.
I would love that.
Yeah. Because you have a lot of opinions. You and everything is well thought out. You're not just, there's no echo chamber here.
Yeah. I've been through a lot. I think that I think life has done a pretty good job of humbling me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I'm teaching a lot of hard lessons, seen a lot of deaths, lost a lot of friendships, the kind of things that those trials and tribulations that define us.
It seems like you value those moments, though.
I kind of see it as like, this is kind of the paradox, the conundrum for me is, that fighting off the cynicism, fighting off the existentialism and the nihilism and all these things, all the isms, fighting all that stuff off in order to like still see the beauty in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I guess for me, it was important. It's like, well, I can't appreciate the light unless I learn how to work in the dark, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. If I could give I've said this to men online, you know, where it's like, hey, you want to know my best advice when it comes to dating? Always be willing to hear the word no as much as you're wanting to hear the word yes.
Yeah. That's sage advice right there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have to appreciate not having something in order to appreciate what you have in the first place sometimes. And it's been like that, like for a long time. I've seen the best of people, I've seen the worst of people, and I've seen it firsthand and close up.
Yeah.
And you know, I lost my grandfather, whom I was really, really close with. He was like my second dad. Lost him to like the 13-year battle with Alzheimer's.
And is that where legacy came from?
That and my own dad. My dad passed away in actually it'll be 9 years and 6 days that he passed away. But my dad was a stone sculptor. He was a wood carver.
So you've come from creativity all the way around.
In a lot of ways. My dad was an artist, but he was like really in his head about stuff.
Yeah.
And he would make these, he started with wood, then sandstone, then alabaster, then marble. He was a classically trained vocalist. He was in Canterbury for over 30 years.
Wow.
And was a choir director, And so my dad was kind of this Renaissance man in a lot of ways. But as I've gotten older, I've realized the one thing that my father and I have in common more than, he was never much of a songwriter. He played guitar too.
Yeah.
Played saxophone too. But he was never much of a songwriter. But the one thing that we have in common is he and I both have had a lot of struggles with self-doubt.
Yeah.
But with him, it was like, I got the phone call that he had cancer in July and he's gone by October.
Yeah.
So it was a 3-month really quick. With my grandfather, I sat with him every Tuesday and Thursday for 10 years. I became the one person in the family. I was the only grandkid that ever helped out. And then it was my mom and my grand.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was 22, I kind of had this emotional breakdown. It was my first like real anxiety attack, panic attack type of thing. And I'd been drinking, which triggered it. I was 22, I'm an idiot, but not an idiot. I was
at 22, we were all idiots.
Yeah. I was inexperienced with a lot of stuff, right? And I knew, like, Papa had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
At that point. And I knew the inevitable was coming. But it's that first loss in your life, that first significant one. That's what like holds this mirror to your own mortality. Yeah. And so I had this breakdown once. And I remember calling my mom had been separated from my stepdad at the time. He was being an asshole. So she was staying with my grandparents. So I called my grandparents' house to try to just talk to my mom. Yeah. See if she could just kind of calm me down a little bit. And she's asleep. Well, one of the things about Alzheimer's is, especially in the early stages, you don't sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They stay up really late. So I called her cell phone. She didn't answer. So I called their house and my grandpa picks up. And he's like, the son, he always called me, it was son or outlaw was my nickname.
Yeah.
He was like, son, have you been drinking? I said, yes, sir, but not for a couple hours. He goes, well, if you can drive, come see me. So I drive to my grandparents' house. And it's about 4:30 in the morning at this point. My grandma and my mom are asleep. And Papa's sitting there waiting in the door with his hand up front. Meets me in the front yard, gives me his hug. I just leaves it.
Yeah.
Pulls me in the garage because we don't want to wake up my mom or grandma. Pulls me in the garage. And that's when he looked at me and he was like, I'm losing my mind, but I just want you to know I'll always love you. Those are the kind of things that we deal with in silence.
Yeah.
That we deal with when no one is around. Looking at somebody who is like a father to me and watching him be self-aware and kind of lay that on you, or like shit with my dad when he was in hospice. So I got the phone call and they lived in Grove, Oklahoma. I get the phone call from my aunt of all people. Now, mind you, my aunt lives in Houston.
Yeah.
So why the hell she's in Grove before I am? So was my family from Florida.
Yeah.
And it was because my stepmother at the time she was cutting me off of all this stuff. But my dad was my best friend. And so I get to Grove and I walk into the room and all this family's there. And of course it's looking at me now. And my stepmother, who just at the time, just whatever. But, she's like, well, go say hi to your dad. And I was like, I'll get to that, because me going and talking to my father is not a spectacle for them to watch. You know what I mean? So I wait about 20 or so minutes. They were like, he's been unresponsive for 2 or 3 days now. It's not going to be much longer. And so I walk over and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, Dad, I'm here. And he wakes up.
Yeah.
And everybody in the room, I mean, it's like the record stopped. Everybody in the room looks at me. And my dad just goes, there you are.
That's who he was waiting on.
That's who he was waiting on. And so they pull in a cot. I stay overnight. My dad was comatose. He'd been in these hospital rooms with no windows for so long that his circadian rhythm was off. About 3 a.m. is when he'd wake up.
Wow.
And he would wake up. The thing is, what sucked is he would wake up alone. And I stayed in there. So I see my dad. My dad wakes up around 3:30 a.m.
And you're there.
And I'm there. So I sponge his mouth for about an hour so he can finally get enough moisture to talk a little bit.
Yeah.
I put on some old Westerns because he loved that stuff. And I was the one that I looked at my dad and I said, have they gone over anything with you? Are you aware of what's happened? Do you know where you are? And he was like, no, nobody's talked to me. And I said, okay, well, your liver is done.
Yeah.
And right now your kidneys are about to be done as well.
Things are shutting down.
Yeah. I said, do you know what that means? And he kind of shook his head no. And I said, Dad, what this means is you are going to die soon. And there's not a thing that we can do about it.
Yeah.
And I still live with the fact that I had to tell my father he was going to die. And people don't understand that. They don't know what it's like to look at your best friend and say, I'm helpless as shit. I can't do with that.
They don't know until it's, you're either the guest of honor who's laying in the bed, or you're the person who's having to relay certain bits of information. And that goes back to a non-empathetic, society, to where unless they're experiencing it, they don't care. A lot of people just don't care.
Yeah.
And they want you back to business as usual.
Yep. And he goes back to that quantity, not quality.
Yeah. You've got, I'm going to give you 2 days to mourn, and then I need you back because of your usefulness or whatever it is.
Yeah. I think about that all the time, but at the same time, it's like throughout my life, there's been roles and responsibilities that were bestowed upon me that I didn't volunteer for. I was wrong, but I had to do it, right? I was the one that had to help. I was the grandkid. They helped take care of my grandfather. I was, when it came time around Christmas, I was the one putting up the lights. You know what I mean? I was the one helping Papa open his Christmas gifts because his motor skills at that point were basically kaput.
They were gone.
And if I had to cry, and I did this a couple years in a row, if I had to cry, I would excuse myself from the room. I'd go in the garage. No one would ever notice me disappear. And I would go in the garage and I would just bawl.
Yeah.
And once it calmed down, I'd go back in, right? These are like formidable memories for me. And these times that it's like, cool, from this second on, I will be a different person because I cannot unlive what just happened.
So I assume that makes its way into your music.
Yeah.
Is it hard for you to do that? And does it, I guess, they say time eases some things, but you never forget. But the way that you write about loss, you have songs in the moment. Do you have a particular song in the moment when all that went down?
Mm-hmm.
What was the song in the moment that came out of that experience?
I wrote this song. I never released it. I plan on it. At this point, I've probably written close to 3,000 songs.
Well, the one nearest to
it was, I wrote this song about having a conversation with God.
Yeah.
And it was, And it was being a mediator almost between my father and God.
Yeah.
And it was, if you can fight, let it be so. If you can hold on, then I can hold. And then there's just this line that says, and if I ask God politely, will he let you come back home?
Yeah.
There's also the quip of, and growing up, the choir director's son. I was there before the preacher's son because dad had prep to do. I was there before the preacher half the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And being a former praise and worship leader and that sort of thing, there's kind of that quip of like, hey, sometimes God just tells you no. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think what happened is especially after dad's death, and because after we lost my dad, my grandma, and my uncle, same family within about a year and a half of each other.
Yeah.
All three gone. I lost a bandmate, one of my best friends from high school, two different people. One of my closest friends lost their 17-month-old.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I couldn't get away from it.
It was like all these dominoes.
It was a cloud. It was just a cloud of darkness. It really felt like it had just loomed, this fog.
Yeah.
But the thing is, after you go through something like that, the way that you word things, there's no sugarcoat anymore. Which is also, kind of goes back to the joke where it's like, we'll never screw over a songwriter because you'll get immortalized, or a poet or an artist, your transgression will be immortalized, whether you like it or not. And when people get upset about it, I'm like, well, then you should have done something different.
Yeah.
You don't get to, your hindsight and regret of how you behaved doesn't change how you behaved because you still have changed,
Wow.
And so for me, it ripped that band-aid. It ripped it open.
Yeah.
And the way that I saw everything after that was simultaneously in the harshest and the softest light possible. And so now I feel kind of torn down the middle, like the duality of my personality and character is now at the forefront. It's not buried anymore. And so I have very on the surface struggles, for example, yesterday, I mean, aside from helping my mom get to physical therapy, she had a knee surgery. I didn't leave my partner.
Yeah.
It was beautiful yesterday. And I wanted so bad to just take a walk, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't have a fear of open spaces or what is that called? Agoraphobia? I can't remember.
That's agoraphobia.
I don't have that or anything. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a pretty outgoing person.
Yeah.
But man, I'm at that point in my life now where it's like I'm 40 years old. It doesn't take I ask nothing of life.
Yeah.
I really don't. It doesn't take much to make me happy.
That's a great space to be.
Yeah,
where it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much, and it's because I don't ask that much. I don't feel entitled to anything. I wish I could find comfort like some others feel comfort in their entitlement, but I don't. I feel discomfort in entitlement because as hard as my life has been, or the trials and things that I've been through, or the lessons that I had to learn the hard way, or the mistakes that I made, it's like the growth of a broken bone.
Yeah.
But there's always these reminders, and I get them all the time. For example, a couple of days ago, I was driving. I live over in the Paseo area, not too far from here. And I was driving, and I see a guy walking. And there were two things that just broke my heart.
Yeah.
One, the guy was clearly Hispanic, right?
Yeah.
And with everything going on right now, and one of my closest friends who is Mexican, I mean, I'm always like, how's your family? And he's a citizen. These are American citizens, but it doesn't matter. And so I see this guy who is having to deal with the race bullshit in this country and just the unbridled racism now. They're not even hiding it anymore. But I'm like, man, that guy has to deal with this. But he was also disabled. You could tell that he had a muscular thing.
Yeah.
And as he's walking, I had no idea where he was going. And it looked like he was not from any money at all.
Yeah.
And as he's walking, you can just see that every step was a struggle. We still put one foot in front of the other. And there's the mirror.
Oh yeah.
You know, everybody has that in front of them. But we can't close ourselves off to that outside world. We can't close ourselves off to people who are different.
Well, I think that's why we need artists. I think that's why, if we didn't have those people, we would become so desensitized that they just become wallpaper and background noise and all of that. I think art keeps us human.
And it can teach us how to be if we forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the major value of it. Chase, I want to ask, so with Sunday Night Sounds, which is funny because I have to tape it before, right? To go to work,
Yeah, the Tonight Show's filmed in the afternoon. If you know,
Same thing. I want to do something with that focus, because I don't know why that stretch, the loss of father, the loss of a grandfather, that part is something that we all agree as far as our humanity. No matter how far you get away from being a human being,
yeah.
the death of a loved one always brings you back.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I would love to do the very first Sunday Night Sounds with that narrative. How your music progressively, and the reason I asked, what was it like when you were writing at the initial onset, as opposed to looking back, and reflecting. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that journey.
Oh yeah.
So I want that to be the first one, the song that you hadn't released. I would love for that to be on the show.
Yeah.
So can we make a commitment to do that?
Absolutely.
Cool.
And that would mean a lot. I mean, it's one of those things where I think something, especially with music and art, with my photography, that changed the way I saw the world.
Yeah.
And it wasn't seen through a lens. It was I want to just take pictures of what I see. I want to take pictures of how I feel when I see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like, how do you capture an atmosphere in a photo?
That's when you do something remarkable.
With songs, it just became, it was that understanding of, well, can't please everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So why focus on pleasing anybody?
That's true. Just create, just make.
Please yourself first.
Yeah.
Because when people see that you have an understanding with your inner self and that inner voice, when they see that, they're going to go, oh, that's what I like.
I always said create your own universe.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think I've said it before, but I think when we're creating, that is the most honest voice we'll ever have with ourselves.
I agree.
Because you can't bullshit yourself. You can, but then that starts going into, is this psychosis? Is this delusion,
Yeah.
But like, when I sit down to write a song, every single one of them is autobiographical. It's a true story. Even if I'm writing from a character standpoint, I'm injecting parts of my story into that character story in order for there to be an element of truth and realness to it. But it definitely got to a point that it was like, well, if people left me with bullet holes, I'm going to use the proper bandage. And that proper bandage is being very real.
Oh yeah.
And not cutting lyrical or poetic corners. And, when I was, these stories, like, for example, the person who had cheated on me a bunch and smeared my name around town and with certain circles. I remember, because it was always, I love you. It was weaponizing these things. I love you. You're home to me. That sort of thing. Knowing that I did love this person. So I'd always go back. And I remember one time we were hanging out again, and I'd written this song called Headphones.
Yeah.
And all it is kind of verse, refrain, verse, refrain. It's 3 verses. Each verse is a separate story of how one of the times she cheated on me. Just 3 different ones right here, right? And I went over to her house for dinner, and she goes, so-and-so told me you posted a song on your Instagram that I probably won't like. And in my head, it was like, what if it was our thing to say? Because she could just say, I'm really sorry I did all these horrible things to you, and then told everybody that you were a monster when I was the monster.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, if you don't like it, guess what? That is going to be the brashness of my writing now.
But it is ironic, the monster. It's just odd that she would say that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's weird. That's weird. And
But it's commonplace now. It's weird if you're an authentic person, but it's commonplace now for everybody to gaslight everybody. I mean, everybody to just do that.
well, and this same person once told me, just because I did it doesn't mean you should.
Even dropping safety measures so that they don't have to feel the pain that they inflicted.
Yep. And I was like, I go, do you hear yourself right now? But the thing is, it took a while for me to finally get past that.
Yeah.
My current partner, Kiki, it really, honestly, like, it really took someone like her,
Yeah.
who is so intentional and authentic and truly herself. And she doesn't compromise who she is. And the thing is, she doesn't need to, because she's beautiful on the inside and the outside, right? But it took someone like that looking at me and seeing my truth.
Yeah.
And saying, like, I know who you are. It was like, oh my God, I was safe. And the hardest thing, the most difficult thing, is not running back to a toxic situation because I feel like that's all I deserve.
You get used to toxicity.
And you do start sitting there and valuing yourself, saying, well, or devaluing yourself, saying, like, you know what? I'm a bad person. This is what I deserve. And that's absolutely not the case. Because the thing is, that's what people like that want you to think. They want you to think that you are lesser and that you're lucky to be in the room with them. When the fact is, it's the other way around. They come to you because you have the value. You have something that they do not have. You have a love and an open empathy for strangers. You hold the door open for people without expecting a you're welcome. I want to steal that from you.
I really wish, looking back, I had taken the path that you did. I became a monster. Like, I literally, I went through phases. You're the hurt good guy. And then you transform. You're at that fork in the road where you know that you need to part company before it becomes, yeah. But then you become emotionally vengeful.
And there are a few people that I hurt along the way.
Yeah.
To heal it. And I think the straw that finally broke the camel's back for me was I hurt people that didn't deserve it.
Yeah, they're like the collateral damage.
They were in the situation. Yeah, and it was the hurt people, and the misery loves company. And I realized, well, why would I don't want anybody else's misery, so why the hell am I giving them mine?
Yeah.
That is not fair.
Yeah.
That's not okay. And how it wasn't like an outwardly hurting these people. It was making them feel like they weren't worth it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't right. That wasn't right. And I should have been more self-aware at the time and say, you know what, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Or I need time or whatever. And so what I realized, though, was I was waking up and I felt horrible. I hated that. I hated even kind of hurting people. It's my least favorite feeling.
And when you're not healed, a wound can't heal a wound.
That's exactly right.
And you create more.
Yeah.
And then, you can't always fix it.
Yeah. And I finally, that was the moment that I was like, okay, I can't do this to people anymore. And how dare I sit there and try to share my stories of heartbreak when I'm out there breaking hearts?
Yeah.
It's not fair. That makes me a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that. I'm not that by nature.
Well, accountability, bringing it full circle, accountability and the ability to still empathize. If we lose that and everybody is a part of Cutthroat Island, yeah, then a lot of throats will be slit. There will be a lot of pirates, a lot of
plank walking.
be a lot of plank walk.
A lot of plank walk.
So, man, I have to tell you, you're essential. Just as a human being, you are absolutely essential, and I am looking forward to doing some things. Yeah, and you being a first, I can't think of a better person to be a first.
I appreciate it.
I mean, even from the art and the the art moves days, you would hit me and say, "Hey, I got something for you." You know, you were always considerate of, and you were like, "It's close to you." You knew my travel situation, and you were like, "It's close to you. I got this for you." Yeah, you just walk there. Yeah, yeah. So this is, it's thanks. I'm honored that you would even consider doing this. And I felt terrible when, the first time I was like, it's 11. No, I'm supposed to be here.
Oh, dude, you're all good, man.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, the one guy I want thought you this year.
I was like, man, I'm just like, because I'm understanding of anything. Well, man,
And I really,
happens.
I really appreciate that. I'm becoming more organized. I'm putting Alexa through the thing. Yeah, so now she's, you have an 11:30 appointment, got a 12 o'clock appointment and stuff like that. But yeah, I really want to bring you on board. I want you to talk with Susan about some stuff. Susan McCalmont made all of this possible.
Yeah.
And when she invited me to be artist in resident here, this place was nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
She put in so much work. And there were mornings I woke up to jackhammering,
Yeah.
but it was so worth it,
Yeah.
And I had been pretty much comatose, when there was that loss that I was talking about. I went completely monk mode.
Yeah.
I didn't have the energy to do anything except go to work. And it wasn't really, there's depression and then there's deflation.
Yeah.
The deflation, I can't even explain it. It's like you're looking at your own mortality. You get into this space to where you don't allocate your energy like you could. All of my energy was being placed into busy work.
Yep.
And being placed into work instead of building. So, the invitation to this gallery to do something, to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do something that I definitely can't do. You're an amazing songwriter, so I am familiar with your music. That's the other thing. I know what you do, and I think it would be something that people look forward to.
I hope it's the one thing I'm working on right now is trying to, because I feel like I've found my sound.
Yeah.
But my sound is several sounds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's strange to exist when your biggest influences are everyone from Marvin Gaye and Bill Withers to like Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Those are not similar artists, but they have all these things that I love, and so the sound kind of, it can go from like almost like a bossa nova infused kind of acoustic soul vibe to like kind of a Joni Mitchell style 60s folk type of thing, finger picking and that sort of deal.
But I think your lyrics bring things together.
And I'm excited now that I've hit this tipping point where I went from wanting to write songs to get people in a room to now I'm writing songs because I want to be in that room.
Yeah.
And so it's getting to this point where I'm showing myself a lot more patience.
Yeah.
Sometimes I living near Edgemere Park, I'll just go out there and just write like whatever, free verse. Just let it come out. Let it be its thing.
Yeah.
And what I realize is not every stanza on a page needs to be heard.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in fact, most of the time, I think that stanza on the page is from me.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's, well, what am I get to choose my own stuff that I put out in the world. It's like being a visual artist.
Yeah.
I mean, or a photographer. You can capture these things, you can create these things, but the bulk of your work might not be seen by anybody.
True.
You know, and that's okay, because sometimes, most of the time, our growth is done in solitude.
It is.
You know,
It is.
and that's what that is to me.
I've completely deconstructed sculptures.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, don't do it. But you do it because that sculpture's moment, it's over. And unless somebody takes it off of my hands to where I can't do something to it, it becomes reconstituted into something else.
It's like a verse.
It is.
It's like words from an old song where I'm like, hey, that still applies, but I don't have an emotional connection to this, the first and the
And then it evolves into something else.
of something else, you know, and that's fun to me.
Yeah.
Because that's that combination of the old and new into one, you know, and then it really becomes the evidence of who you are as an artist. That growth is all there because you could see it's like the alpha and the omega are smashed together at once. And that's cool to me. Because that is like, that is the expression.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what we all as creatives eventually strive for those things to join together and have that, whatever's created out of it, you know, you brought it into existence. So let's go on ahead and let's plan for Sunday Night Sounds to feature Chase, Duncan, Kerby.
I'm way in. Yeah. I would love that. Seriously.
Well, I have been sitting here talking with Chase Kerby, good friend of mine, very outspoken, very brave artist, and we need more bravery in society, and we need more authentic people. And I am glad that this is not going to be the last correspondence between us. And it's really good to reconnect with Chase and talk with him in this new phase of life. This is Nathan Lee with Life is Art and Coffee, and a very special Coffee Cup Conversations. And stay tuned. There's some good things coming, and Chase Kerby is going to be a part of that.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Me too. Until the next time, everybody, take care.